Hey, Tom Sharpling here, the host of The Best Show. And if you've never heard of The Best Show before, everything you need to know is right there in the title. Each week we put on the best live podcast you're ever going to hear, featuring live callers, celebrity guests, music, plenty of surprises. Who knows what's going to happen? Last month alone, we were joined by Conan O'Brien, Patricia Arquette, Jeff Tweedy from Wilco, Nathan Fielder, Sunan Archives, John Oliver. The list goes on and on. So what are you waiting for? Join us live every Tuesday night on Twitch at 6 p.m. Pacific time, and find us the next day on the Forever Dog Podcast Network and wherever you find podcasts.
Hey, Mom and Dad are fighting listeners. We're off for Thanksgiving, but didn't want to leave you without an episode. So today we're sharing a fun one from our friends at Slate's How To podcast. The episode features former Mom and Dad Are Fighting host Carvell Wallace and friend of the show Courtney Martin tackling an age-old question: how to archive your child's life without drowning under art projects, sports memorabilia, and onesies. Before I turn the mic over, we need your help though. We're preparing for the annual Mom and Dad Are Fighting holiday party episode. It's going to be so much fun. We even wrangle the kids on the mic. Here's where we need something from you. Send us your questions for the kids. Email us at momanddad@slate.com or call in at 646-357-9318. Thank you so much. Okay, without further ado, here's Carvell and Courtney. We'll see you back here on Monday.
I lost all my photos in 2017, which was absolutely horrific. It was like a new iPhone transfer tragedy.
Yes.
I had no backup, and so I lost all the photos of everything, all the kids, everything.
Oh, no.
It was heartbreaking, and I was like sick to my stomach for like 3 days, and then I sort of got over it. And now I have a camera roll that has, 7,000 friggin' photos in it, and I cannot let go of any of them. And some of it is like not having the tools, but a lot of it is emotional. Like I'm just...
You need to talk to your therapist about that one.
Welcome to How To. I'm Courtney Martin.
And I'm Carvell Wallace.
Now, Carvell, before we start the show today, there's something I want to play for you.
Okay.
I love Polaroid cameras because they put memories into little pieces of paper.
I'm sorry. Are you raising like a 16th century poet? Like what is happening right there?
Okay, so that is my older daughter, Maya, who is 9. And then I've got Stella, who is an exuberant 7. And I asked them for some advice about our topic today.
Oh, my goodness. What a great idea.
Today we were talking on the podcast about how you decide what to keep from your kids' stuff or give away. And how hard it is for grown-ups to know what to keep. Do you have any advice for people?
So think of what your kid's playing with most. And then when they're not playing with, just sell it, give it away. But if they really like it, keep it.
Yeah, I would say that is pretty accurate. I mean, I have no arguments with that airtight philosophy.
It's pretty logical for a profoundly illogical child, I have to say. But you'll hear more about this. Now, Maya also, the older one, got very excited that there's a profession called professional organizer. She was shocked by this and even had the gall to say that she would like to do this job so she could organize her various little collections. You like organizing gems and rocks?
And other things.
Like what?
Makeup, earrings, jean jackets, pencils, pens, tape, more pencils.
You're sure that older Maya will be invested
because
in
it has
that?
dates, I want to keep it.
Okay. Anything else you think people should know?
Cats are adorable.
Perfect.
Cats are adorable, and that is something you should keep for the rest of your life. You put that in the archives. Okay, so as parents, we all want the best for our kids, of course, and that includes the best preserved version of their childhoods. So today, we're going to be joined by someone who does that for a living, a professional organizer.
I'm Nonnahs Driskill, and I run 2 organizing teams in Southern California, and we just try to help people's lives be a little easier by dealing with their clutter and getting them a little more organized.
Full disclosure, Nonnahs and I know each other from the early 2000s, which was a million years ago when our families were part of a babysitting co-op in our neighborhood in Los Angeles. We took care of each other's kids and we hung out a lot and we partied together a lot, like new parent partying. And back then she was in a different line of work, but her gift for organizing was, at least to me and all of us who went to her house, it was pretty clear to us back then that she was really good at this. And it's really impressive when you consider that, like me, she had small kids.
Well, my mom was a kindergarten teacher, and so she kind of raised us like it was a kindergarten, I think. We had the places for everything, and that's how kindergarten runs. Like, imagine if at the end of the day she's just like, everybody just go home. No, we can't. We got to do cleanup time, and everything goes back and hang it on the right peg.
So she helps people organize stuff, including the unfortunate job of helping small children organize stuff. And in my experience, small children generate so much crap.
They generate so much crap. So that's why we're here. On today's show, we're going to ask Nonnahs about what to do with all that, as Courtney calls it, crap, which is created by the people that you love most in the world, your kids. And we're going to find out how to make those tough decisions about what stays and what goes. And we'll talk about the clutter and how that clutter makes us feel as parents. And we'll come to terms with the fact that archiving your kid's childhood feels really important to most of us, but it can actually get in the way of you saving the very best stuff.
Oh man, this is a deep one. Don't go anywhere.
This episode is brought to you by KiwiCo. Imagine giving a gift that's not just a present, but a personalized journey into a child's passion, making them feel truly seen and loved. I recently gifted KiwiCo's Panda Crate, which is for babies, as a baby gift. These boxes are designed for ages 0 to 36 months. These are not just any toys, they're high-quality toys accompanied by this guide that really enhance the learning experience. And honestly, what makes KiwiCo truly special is its commitment to fostering this interactive learning. As a parent, I found their crates spanning various age groups to be our family's favorite. I'm on here talking about them all the time because I love facilitating hands-on activities that promote continuous learning and bonding. Unwrap more than a gift. Discover hands-on fun with KiwiCo. Get your first month free on any crate line at kiwico.com/momanddad. That's your first month free at kiwico.com/momanddad.
I want to tell you a little bit about Quince. They have timeless pieces that can transform any closet. So when it comes to dressing your family for the holidays or picking out gifts, head over to Quince. I don't want to brag, but I have 4 chore coats, one of which is the Organic Comfort Stretch Chore Jacket from Quince. It fits me so well. I can dress it up. I can wear a collared shirt underneath, or I can just wear a t-shirt or sweatshirt under. I really love this piece, and I think you will too. Quince offers a range of high-quality items with prices within reach, like 100% Mongolian cashmere sweaters from $50, washable silk tops and dresses, cotton sweaters, and comfy pants. With all Quince items, everything is priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. Get high-quality essentials at affordable prices for you and the whole family with Quince. Go to quince.com/momanddad for free shipping and 365-day returns on your order. That's QUINCE.com/momanddad to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/momanddad.
Okay, so Courtney, I'm going to let you in on something. So I told you earlier that we met each other because we were in the same childcare co-op when our kids were little.
Right.
But one of the other parents in that co-op is actually the one responsible for Nonnahs becoming a professional organizer.
It was Jessica Garrison, who's a mutual friend of ours. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you remember this about her, but she was very disorganized. I remember this vividly about her. Shout out Jessica Garrison. And she's just so good at being a reporter for the Los Angeles Times. She did not have any brain power to be decluttering her house. Mm-mm. So when I would go over there to babysit in the co-op, I would just organize her stuff, just reflexively. And she said, Nonnahs, you need to get paid for this. This is a career and you should be doing it. So that's how it started. But the truth is, everybody needs us. Everybody needs a professional organizer, even if they're organized at some point in their life. Everyone needs it.
So what do you like about it? And what do you find is challenging about doing this work?
I've learned that clutter is very emotional, and it's usually not about the things that you're looking at. It's about the backstory, about their own parents, about how much money they had growing up, about what their husband thinks they should be doing while he's at work. It's just so much stuff that's so hard to pinpoint, and you have to kind of get to that as fast as you can so that you can help them. And then the good part is when we leave, people are generally gobsmacked with gratitude. So it's really pretty great.
How many of the consultations involve tears?
Yeah.
I feel like it's all so deep.
Yeah. When we're working at a session, let me think of a percentage, 10% maybe, but there are definitely tears. And that's always surprising when I'm interviewing people who want to work on our team. Like, this isn't about Pinterest or Instagram. There will be swearing. There will be crying. There will be cat puke. There will be dirty underwear. And there will be lifting up and down stairs. And there will be crying. Yes.
Do you use any systems? I know that other people who are organizers are always branding systems and selling them and selling books about them and stuff. Do you have a system that you start with or work with?
Yeah, no systems at all. That just sounds horrible. For a while, your kids go through phases. For a while, we just put everything on hooks. I just put hooks all around their room, and they could just hang their clothes on hooks because there's no way they were folding anything. And then it got to be where, and some adults are still like this, they're never going to fold their clothes.
Yeah.
And that's fine. And so we just have a drawer of T-shirts, and the T-shirts, they just kind of lay them in there. They don't ball them up and throw them in there, but just kind of shake them and lay them in there. And that's where your T-shirts are.
Yeah.
That's better than the floor. And so then their partner was happy because they don't have to look at the T-shirts on the floor, but nobody has to fold any T-shirts. So it's a win-win. Things like that. So no systems. No.
But your general philosophy is kind of like a place for everything and everything in its place, basically. Is that fair to say?
Kind of, yeah. That sounds so anal.
It does. It does sound kind of aggressive.
I think one I like a lot that I say all the time is put this where you're going to use it. That's a little more helpful than everything in its place. Put it where you're going to use it.
That's good.
Put it where it goes. But it's just a nicer way to say everything in its place.
I have to say, I am so relieved by your answer, Nonnahs. I think, as is the case with all parenting, the notion that I don't have some perfect system and a carefully thought out philosophy and a regular pattern of enacting the system, the rest of it, we'll figure out along the way. Yeah. But it just gives me a little bit of peace of mind that, I'm not deeply flawed as a parent because I don't have some perfect system.
Kids do love a little bit of structure, and they do, everyone thrives well when there's a little less clutter. And that's the end of the speech.
Wow.
That's all I'm going to say about that.
I like that. Bite-sized and manageable.
Oh, so relieved.
Okay, so let's talk about the particular question that sort of brought all this up, which is this question of what to do with all of your kids' stuff as they age. And we know that kids bring home all kinds of things. And look, I made this drawing, and we did this thing, and I wrote this paper, and we made this diorama, and whatever it is. And as a parent, you're always confronted, whether it's at the end of the year, the end of the semester, or as they enter high school, with what to do with all this stuff that you've said, oh, this is so great, and you put it on the fridge and you frame some of it, but there's more than you could ever deal with. Part of the reason that we wanted to do this conversation is because Courtney and I are both parents at different points in our parenting. My children are out of the house, technically, although they're not out of my wallet or bank account. They're definitely out of the house. Courtney, do you want to talk a little bit about where you're at right now, what's coming up for you lately?
Yes, I would love to. I have a 7-year-old and a 9-year-old, 2 daughters, and they produce so much stuff. And in their 2 tiny bedrooms, there's just massive amounts of things everywhere. And I think one of the fundamental pieces for me is, is that my business? Part of me wants to just like shut the door and be like, I should stay in my lane, keep my room clean, you deal with your room. But when I do try to participate in the decluttering, participate in the potential archiving of things, I run up against some quite deep questions around like what matters to me versus what matters to them. So I would just love advice on all these things. And I'm so grateful also that, you 2 are a little further along in the journey. So you have some perspective on what older kids actually care about.
It's interesting, Courtney, that your kids are 7 and 9, because around 7 is right when I say, okay, then we need to work with the child and not you in their room.
I love that. And then what kinds of questions do you ask the kid?
Do you like this? When's the last time you played with this? I mean, they just don't care. They're like, it costs $200? Who cares? I don't like it. My Aunt Betty gave it to me. Who cares? I don't like it. All the baggage that the adult clients are bringing to me, the kids just don't have it. By the time they get to be like 8 or 9, you can kind of tell, and especially 10. But as far as the parents go, I find that harder because the parents feel so guilty throwing away anything, or they just think it's so precious, and it's so hard to see their 12-year-old now and look at this 4-year-old drawing and they miss the 4-year-old. Think about when you moved out of your parents' house, how much of your artwork did you take with you? And that is generally 0.
Sobering.
The other questions are, has your child ever noticed that you've thrown something away and been upset? Because if they've never noticed, go for it. You can do whatever you want. And then the other one is, think about how long it took your child to work on this. And this is especially true in preschool and kindergarten, because first of all, a lot of that artwork, the teacher did it and the kid just put a handprint. You know what I mean? Like, and then they draw the turkey around it. And I'm like, this is the teacher's art. It's not your kid's art. And then second of all is if it's just a scribble on a paper, that's great. Let's just keep one of those from when they were 2 and one when they were 3, so that if they do grow up and become a famous multimedia artist, you have this progression of how they got better.
That feels really important, Nonnahs, that representative lens, because I've really seen that in my kids. They're like these seasons of either artistic output or like how their handwriting looks or how they're writing stories. And I love the idea of kind of like noting that on some chill level and then like making sure you've got something from those different seasons, but throwing away the rest without guilt.
Yeah. Well, the one technique that I used was they were probably in like 3rd and 5th grade, somewhere around there. And I went to the art store and I bought portfolios, like art portfolios, like as if they were, like submitting to go to like a conservatory. And I basically just like along this line of representation of eras, I basically just took one picture from each era. So like, here's one 1st grade drawing that was kind of cool, and this goes in the archives. It's like I was curating like a retrospective. You know what I mean?
Perfect.
And I did throw away a bunch of stuff, and it was a little scary. And then at the end, like in high school, they both got their little portfolios, and they got to do whatever they want with them. But the idea is that because they were too little to sort of like select what was or wasn't valuable, my job was to do my best guess and then give it to them to decide what to do with in the long run.
It's beautiful.
It is. And the same is true for their items, because, I have a couple little items, like Zane's favorite little pair of 3-year-old cowboy boots that he wore everywhere for months. And I kept those boots, but I have a specific container. And this is how much stuff I get to keep from their 0 to 18. You don't have to be that strict, but that's just what I decided to do. And so I know he doesn't care that I saved those cowboy boots, but I saved them for me.
Yeah.
So it's fine.
I have a complicating question, which is connected to a story, Nonnahs. So when I was in college, my mom and I used to email constantly because I grew up in Colorado Springs, like fairly small town, went to New York City for college, and I was totally wide-eyed and overwhelmed at first. And so she and I would like constantly email. It was the very beginning of email. And when I was done with college, my mom handed me this giant box filled with printouts of every email we had sent one another. I think it was during the first year, if I remember correctly. And I was horrified. I was like, Mom, this is not how email works. You have no understanding. This is like such a weird thing to do. Well, fast forward, 20 years, and I could not be more grateful that she had done this because, my Lexis Barnard.edu account, who knows like where that exists in the ether of the internet. It's probably just doesn't exist. And yet I have this, document of one of the most pivotal, forks in the road of my entire life that I can hold in my hand and revisit and read. So 2 questions related to this. One is, sometimes I get that we can ask our kids, but on the other hand, our kids are making decisions like as themselves now, not as their future selves. So I think sometimes like they couldn't possibly understand the value of a thing just because of the nature of childhood. And so I'm curious about that. Like I want to give my kids agency. On the other hand, I think there's a lot they don't know about who they're going to be and what they might value. And then the second thing is this whopper of a question, but about like the physical world versus the digital world. And like, as we're thinking about helping our kids remember who they are and how they became who they are, a lot of my instincts are like my mom's now, or that things should be physical and that's going to last longer. But on the other hand, I'm sort of like, maybe that's incredibly naive and digital artifacts are more important.
I'm so jealous of you because I had the same experience writing to my parents when I was first a flight attendant, and I told them all the crazy stories because I had to write them down because they were crazy, and now I have no way to get those emails because
I want to read those emails.
So good for you, good for your mom. Yay, Courtney's mom. I think that the part about kids making decisions because they essentially don't have perspective is what you're kind of saying. They don't know.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like I don't know what I'll be like at 60, right? I'm 43 now. It's like, what will I care about at 63? I don't know. It's very hard to make a decision for your future self.
Right. But in that case, it's the same thing like I was saying about saving Zane's cowboy boots. Like, if there's something that they were really into, keep them for yourself because you know what the kid was into. And so you can kind of curate those things. Even if the kid is like, no, I don't need that. And if you find yourself being like trying to convince them, keep it, then you just keep it for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I also like, Nonnahs, you're making me realize like embarrassment, and maybe this goes back to our shame beginnings, but embarrassment is not a good place from which to honor a kid's yes or no, or our own yes or no, right? That like embarrassment is like a key part of growing up and becoming someone else. And if we hear our kid answering from that place, take that with a grain of salt and use our own wisdom about what might be important to them later.
Yeah.
Very, very true.
Well, I also love this distinction between what you're saving and what your kid is saving. Because I think that's actually the reason that this is a hard topic, right? It's like we're saving our kids' artwork, but for a while, we're saving it. And then at a certain point, they're saving it. And I think it gets a little messy in there. Like the thing that I described that I did with my kids, it only started working once I realized, I'm saving this. Like I might be saving it. They might benefit from it, but I'm the one saving these works of art. This is the stuff that means stuff to me. So effectively, I am the saver in this context.
Yeah. It's like those pictures, how everybody has a picture of their kid throwing a tantrum, at least one.
Yeah.
And that's such a great picture.
Yeah.
But at the time, if that kid could talk, no way is that picture getting taken. But thank God you have a couple of those.
Those pictures really should go into that portfolio that Carvell was talking about, along with all the unidentifiable sculptures. What the heck is that? Hand-drawn turkeys and origami swans.
Okay, but what if that picture is a digital image rather than a physical image? Okay, if that's the case, then you need to think about how to store it. And as for the thousands of other images that you probably have of your kids, it's probably time to put on your curator hat. And we're going to hear more about preserving your child's digital life after this break.
Hey, Tom Sharpling here, the host of The Best Show. And if you've never heard of The Best Show before, everything you need to know is right there in the title. Each week we put on the best live podcast you're ever going to hear. featuring live callers, celebrity guests, music, plenty of surprises. Who knows what's going to happen? Last month alone, we were joined by Conan O'Brien, Patricia Arquette, Jeff Tweedy from Wilco, Nathan Fielder, Sunan Archives, John Oliver. The list goes on and on. So what are you waiting for? Join us live every Tuesday night on Twitch at 6 p.m. Pacific time, and find us the next day on the Forever Dog Podcast Network and wherever you find podcasts.
Hey, this is Mary Harris, host of Slate's daily news podcast, What Next? Slate's mission has always been to cut through the noise, boldly and provocatively. This election season and Supreme Court term are no different. Important coverage like this, though, it would not be possible without the support of our Slate Plus members. So, I'm going to invite you to join us with a special offer. You can try your first 3 months for only $15. That is $5 a month for your first 3 months of uninterrupted ad-free listening on every Slate podcast, member-exclusive episodes and segments of your favorite shows like Amicus and the Political Gabfest, and unlimited reading on the Slate site. Best of all, you'll be supporting all of Slate's independent journalism and analysis as we make sense of the news like no one else can. Sign up for Slate Plus at slate.com/podcastsplus. Again, that is 3 months for only $15. So sign up now at slate.com/podcastplus.
Hey everybody, it's Tim Heidecker. You know me, Tim and Eric, Bridesmaids, and Fantastic Four. I'd like to personally invite you to listen to Office Hours Live with me and my co-hosts, DJ Doug Pound.
Hello.
And Vic Berger.
Howdy.
Every week we bring you laughs, fun, games, and lots of other surprises. It's live. We take your Zoom calls.
Music.
We love having fun. Excuse me?
Songs. Vic said something.
Songs.
Music.
I like having fun. I like to laugh. I like to meet people who can make me laugh. Please subscribe now.
We're back. I'm Courtney Martin here with Carvell Wallace. We're talking about strategies for archiving all the things that kids generate during childhood.
Yep, and our guest is Nonnahs Driskill, a professional organizer based in Southern California. When you're preserving your child's early years, you have a couple of options. You could stay in the physical realm, or you could go digital. And Nonnahs has some thoughts.
I think you need some physical things, and I think you definitely are going to need some digital things. I think a little bit of both is great. I love how you can make physical books from digital photos. Mm-hmm. You can do that in so many ways. You can start like a Substack is a new thing, and you can upload little stories or just great pictures and only share your Substack with yourself or with your parents or whoever. And then you have that kind of like a digital scrapbook forever and ever. Every now and then when we get a really good picture, I do order a print. Mm-hmm. And people who have artistic children, when I'm working with them as their organizer, we have this issue, especially with 3D art. And sometimes we take a video, and sometimes we take a picture, and you can kind of make a YouTube compilation. I've used Fiverr for that and recommended people do that because I'm not a video editor. It takes so long. But if I have a group of photos with some videos mixed in and I want it to be a nice video, then I just have them edit it and upload it to YouTube, and there it is forever. Their 3D art.
Oh, and we should say, in case you have not been in a desperate search to find a video editor before, that Fiverr is an online platform for finding freelancers. Okay, so Nonnahs, is there a risk of saving too much stuff? Do you find yourself trying to convince people not to save things?
I like to be hired back. We like to have repeat business. So I try not to piss people off. So if you can see them really digging their heels in, I'm like, great, let's keep all of it. Let's figure out how to keep all of it. But here's what the main thing I want to say from your question is that every time I go through my boxes of memorabilia and my kids, but especially my own, every time I can let go of a little more. Mm. Every time I go through, I'm like, who was that guy that wrote me these letters, or whatever, or I don't talk to this friend anymore, and that was great, but now I think I can just keep this one picture of us at graduation. So as far as memorabilia goes, I think you could, as long as you have the space, can err on the side of saving a little bit more and just go through it. It's so fun to go through those boxes too. It's when you're in the holidays, when you're not working, or during the pandemic was an awesome time to do that.
It actually reminds me, Carvell, this may be a metaphor that you and I would uniquely be into, but of writing, good editing after you've written something where like at first you want to keep all your darlings and then you give it, if you can, a couple weeks or a month or whatever time you have away from your writing. And then you come back to it and you're like, oh, actually, I can get rid of
You're
half
just
of that.
block
And
deleting entire paragraphs that you thought were so important. And then you're like, wait, this piece didn't need any of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally.
So like I can imagine that one technique that would work well for me is to like save things along the way, but then periodically, like you're saying, Nonnahs, maybe like once a year, I just like look through what I've saved and cut that by half again.
Yeah.
And that probably by the end of, childhood, by the end of this beautiful 18-year journey I'm on, that like I would think, oh, that this was right. Like this was the right amount of stuff to save.
I think with all kinds of organizing, it depends on your personality type and how you do it. Some people like to do a little every day, and some people like to do a big chunk on the weekends, when they're doing their physical clutter. And I think the same is true with digital clutter. Going through all your digital photos, like I do think you can keep too many digital photos because you just get so overwhelmed looking at thousands of pictures on your phone. And then, God forbid, your phone goes out. Hopefully everything is backed up these days. But instead of winding down at night looking at Instagram, you can wind down looking at your own photos and kind of editing them. Because you probably have 5 of the same pose. Just pick the best one and do that. But like any good decluttering project, staying on top of it is the key. It's not a easy, fast thing to do, decluttering. So you have to figure out if your personality likes to do little chunks or big chunks and do that.
Here's a way that it feels complicated for me because my personality would like everything to be done with the snap of a finger. I would like to just snap my fingers and then, or if it's not a snap of a finger, I would like to have just one superhero session where I just burst it out and I can make my life completely organized. But then the size of that project is so overwhelming that I'm like, or I'll just scroll Instagram. So then I scroll Instagram for like an hour and then it's time for bed. So my personality does want to do it all in one fell swoop, but I don't know if my body agrees. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
What is your advice to people who are intimidated by the size of the project?
Yeah, there are a couple tricks. One of them that works for most people is a timer. You just say, I'm just going to set this timer for 10 minutes. I only have to do this for 10 minutes. And then once the timer goes off, you're probably okay to keep going. But just to kind of trick yourself to get started, the timer works really well. And then this is for people who are more type A, I guess, is to schedule it on your calendar. Put a reminder that's time sensitive, like every Monday night, I'm going to go through my photos from the past week. And some Mondays you miss, but you know that on Monday night when I'm falling asleep, that's what I'm doing.
One other thing I wanted to say is I think we're talking about this in like a very individual way. And I think a lot about giving my kids a sense of their community that surrounds them. And in some ways, that's like a piece of the archival project for me, is helping them remember who surrounded them as they grew up, like all these adopted aunties and uncles and neighbors and friends. And so one thing we do is we do print out a kind of unusual amount of pictures. We have like a little breakfast table, and we have this drawer, and the drawer is filled with pictures, most of them of friends and like moments when we've been with our friends and that kind of thing. And then we have these whiteboards right next to the kitchen table and with magnets, and we just like constantly cycle through different pictures, putting them up there so that the girls just have this sense of like all the people that love them, including, their family in Wisconsin and people who have moved away and like that kind of thing. And right now we're doing a good job of making it just like this active part of like when we're sitting at the table, we can like look at people we love. But you're inspiring me to think a little bit more about how I might continue to kind of archive their communities and like their social worlds.
That is beautiful. Oh, I love that. I feel like I want my kids back. I want to do that. Another good trick that you might like, Courtney, because now I'm trying to have a grown-up lady house, right? And so most of the stuff on the walls is art instead of family photos. I have family photos in little groups, but I have the quirky photos of like my daughter smoking a candy cigarette, and that's inside my medicine cabinet. Like I have them in my drawers when I go get a pair of pants. There's a picture of baby staying in there so that I'm still seeing these pictures, but they're not on display for everybody.
I love that.
I love that.
Yeah.
Carvell, is there anything you wish you had done that you didn't do?
Oh, no. Now we're crying. Now we're going to cry.
Yes, there's so much I wish I had done that. Oh, you're talking about archiving. Yeah, no. I mean, I've never been an organized person. I've always done what I do through the harnessing of chaos. My writing works that way. Like everything I do just works that way. And ever since I was a little kid, I've been aware that is something that I was dealing with. When it comes to the archiving and stuff, I feel like I wish I had been more of a Pinterest parent. Like I wish that everything was more perfect. And I see all these. I remember even feeling that, Nonnahs, like coming over to your place, like when you lived at the top of the hill, like I just would feel like, God, their house is so organized. Like me and Joe would be like, our house should be like this. But then we'd be like, but we're not like this. I feel like the kids turned out great, I should say, by the way. And I'm not saying that to be funny. Like I really, honestly, they were over here the other night for dinner, both of them adults, 18 and 20 now. And I was sitting here thinking, God, these have turned out to be truly wonderful human beings, both of them. So perhaps whatever and they're like really good friends with each other, you know, and like they care about each other a lot and they support each other. And so I'm like, okay, well, clearly whatever we were doing worked in like the most important sense of like making human beings for the world.
Yeah, when I hear you say that from this side of the parenting journey, I'm like, oh my gosh, like that's the holy grail. Like all I care about is that my kids like each other and support each other and that they're like, you know, comfortable in the world and doing cool shit that they love. You know, it's just like, you did it.
Yeah.
You don't have to regret anything.
But I do feel like I wish that I had been more organized in some way, but I don't exactly know what that way is or why I have that lingering feeling. And maybe that's just a lingering thing from my childhood, like a lingering feeling of like being less than that I just like developed when I was a child that I just carry with me all the time.
I think if you had been more concerned about being organized, it would have been a disservice to your kids because what you have taught them is to be themselves because you were yourself. And so if you had been running around like, I'm trying to get this house to look like Noni's house, then you should have just sent them to live with me. You know, like then they wouldn't have had the benefit of seeing you be yourself and struggle because they're probably going to struggle with the same thing. And now, and they know it. So
yeah, I can already see some of it now that they have their own living arrangements.
So that also brings me back to Courtney a little bit. At the beginning, you were talking about your daughter's rooms and should you intervene and how much is it your room? Okay, well, this is a little tricky because even in couples, there's different thoughts about this because one partner might think, this is my house, I'm paying for this house, so we need to keep it up to my standards. And then the other partner might think, but it's their room. This is the only space that they have. That's all theirs. And then if their room is, you know, hazardous or whatever, you definitely have to teach them how to periodically declutter things because they're growing so fast. Their interests are changing so fast. And so you definitely do have to teach them that skill. And one or other of them will probably be a natural and the other one will probably be a Carvell. And that's fine. And that's really great. But like just making it fun and not passing on the shame is the most important thing, right? I also think it's important to kind of model just safety and a little bit of organization because some people's houses are just utter chaos. And I just think that's a little bit of a disservice to the kids. It's good to get in their room every now and then and just do a little tidying with them or without them, whatever, depends on their personality. Because you know how like if you eat spicy food growing up, then you're going to like spicy food. The same way, like if your house was generally pretty neat, then when you go out and have roommates, you're going to be like, okay, I got to figure out how to keep this a little bit more in check for my roommates or whatever.
Oh, so relieved.
It's been so great to talk to you, Nonnahs. I've been smiling the entire time. I love hearing your voice. And
same.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So nice to meet you, Courtney.
Yeah, Nonnahs, you're so great.
Thanks.
I really meant what I said. It's like such a relief. I feel like I can like wander upstairs now and like just be a person next to these terrible rooms. Although I am going to declutter a little.
Do it for you.
Yeah, I'll do it for me.
All right, thanks again to Nonnahs Driskill for all of her guidance and advice. You can find her online at getorganizedalready.com. That's getorganizedalready.com.
I gotta get with Nonnahs. Is there a mess in your life that needs decluttering? Send us a note at howto@slate.com or leave us a voicemail at 646-495-4001. We might just have you on the show.
And if you like what you heard today, please give us a review and a rating and tell a friend. That helps us help more people.
How To's executive producer is Derek John. Joel Meyer is senior editor. Rosemary Belson, Kevin Bendis, and Jabari Butler produced the episode. Merritt Jacob is senior technical director. Charles Duhigg created the show.
And I'm Carvell Wallace.
I'm Courtney Martin. Thanks for listening. And once they started talking about this topic, oh, my cat is causing noise. Hold on, guys. Let me let my cat out. Sorry.
Ooh, let the cat out.
Hey, Tom Sharpling here, the host of The Best Show. And if you've never heard of The Best Show before, everything you need to know is right there in the title. Each week we put on the best live podcast you're ever going to hear, featuring live callers, celebrity guests, music, plenty of surprises. Who knows what's going to happen? Last month alone, we were joined by Conan O'Brien, Patricia Arquette, Jeff Tweedy from Wilco, Nathan Fielder, Sunan Archives, John Oliver. The list goes on and on. So what are you waiting for? Join us live every Tuesday night on Twitch at 6 p.m. Pacific time, and find us the next day on the Forever Dog Podcast Network and wherever you find podcasts.